The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie and we're going to dive into the webinar today in just a moment. But before we do that, I have a few housekeeping items that I'd like to take care of. First up is audio. I do want to make sure that everyone here in the audience can in fact hear me like you should be able to. So if you look on the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar dashboard, there is a dark blue bar. On that is going to be a hand icon. Click that hand icon and that will let me know that you can in fact hear me. Again, that's going to be on the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar dashboard. All right, Kathy, Ernest, thank you, Heather, Heidi, Andrew, Alyssa, perfect. Okay, now I'm seeing lots and lots of hands going up, so that is a wonderful sign. Now, the other thing I want to point out is if you have any issues with the webinar today, first I'm going to suggest you try to log out and back in because that tends to reset things and fix most of the issues that people tend to have. However, if you still experience issues, you'll want to call the GoToWebinar help desk. That number is going to be in the chat window that you'll see, but I'll give it to you now just in case you want to write it down. It's 855-352-9002. Now, if at any time you want to ask a question, today's webinar is all about your questions. That's where you want to use the question mark icon. That's in that GoToWebinar dashboard that also shows up on the right-hand side of the dashboard. We have a few people behind the scenes who are going to be flagging some questions for live Q&A. And we've also got questions that have come in through the registration form, which is where we'll be answering a bulk of your questions today. Now, please keep in mind there are a ton of questions, and unfortunately, we're probably not going to get through all of them today. But in the follow-up email that we'll send later today, it will have a link to where we'll be working over the next couple business days to answer more of your questions. Last but not least, yes, we are recording today's session, and you will be receiving a link to that recording in your inbox, most likely by the end of today as well. All right, so I want to welcome you all to today's webinar. It's called Ask Us Anything, Your Holiday Marketing Questions Answered. We're right in the thick of the holiday shopping season, and it's likely you're busy with all the hustle and bustle and everything that's happening this time of year. And I know you're looking to do whatever you can to make the most of the holiday season for your business or for your nonprofit. So whether you're in the middle of your holiday promotions now, or maybe you're just not sure what else to do, we're here today. We've got some experts to help you answer your questions and provide some guidance so that you can finish the year strong. Today's webinar is all about your questions. That's all we're covering today. We're prepared to answer questions about your holiday emails, social media, ads, and more. Now, over 300 of you actually sent in a question in the registration form, which is awesome. And feel free to send in more using that questions window. I see a few of you already using that. We're going to do our best to answer as many of those questions as possible. So I want to more formally introduce myself before we get into these questions, as well as my guests for today. My name is Stephanie French, and I'm the content manager for webinars here at Constant Contact. I'm very familiar with email and social media and online marketing topics. I'm also happy to introduce Patrick Galuli and Rachel Sennett. If you want to go ahead and hop on the video and just say hi.
Hello, really glad to be here. Looking forward to answering everyone's questions.
Same. Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. I am so happy that we could come together and do this today. I'm excited to hear all the questions.
Absolutely. We've got lots of expertise in all sorts of things related to online marketing. So let's dive in. I'm going to kind of start with the questions who are the people who had strategies about marketing strategy for the holidays and stuff like that. So Raphael asks, how do we get started with holiday marketing? So I'll go ahead and start with this one, but I would just say start now. Don't wait any longer. People have already been shopping since probably mid-October, but think about some simple things that you can do now, simple things that you can, put out there. You can start a promotion and send an email campaign, put it in a social media post, and just make sure you're spreading the word about that. Maybe you can come up with a simple offer and simply start promoting it. Rachel or Patrick, do you have anything else you might add to Raphael's question?
I'll just say that I am one of those people that I wish that I had all my Christmas shopping done. And it's funny because I'll ask my friends how far, hey, you guys done for the holidays? But I'm definitely halfway there. But I will tell you, if you haven't maybe started a promotion yet, there's a lot of us out there that are in this boat where, yeah, we wish we would have started in October and we're done by, November, by Thanksgiving. But I'm definitely still shopping around, looking for those last minute things, stocking stuffers. So an email is a great way to connect and try to get those last minute sales and promotions in as well. So there's definitely a lot of us that are, missed the early boat.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I've been telling people too, now's the time of year for business owners to over communicate, it feels like, especially in 2021. You're probably concerned about shipping delays and concerned about getting your products to your buyers on time. They're concerned about receiving them on time. What you want to have is a very transparent process, right? So make sure you're letting people know they got to come in the store if they want to get it in time for Christmas or for New Year's, or whatever it may be, or, just over communication is going to be key. You want them to have a good experience with the transparency you provide, even if, issues outside of your control are gonna impact the actual buying cycle.
The point is just to get started and get something out there. And I would say just keep it simple. That's really one of the best things that you can do there.
Yeah.
All right, so Barrett's next question says, where should I focus my time in relation to marketing my home inspection business during the slower December and January season? Rachel, I'll start with you.
So this is interesting. When we purchased our home, it would be probably considered in the off season. I think most people, especially now with the market the way it is, it's hard to find homes. Just because it's slower doesn't mean that those customers aren't there. So I would give the same advice to your business that I would for a retail shop, right? If you offer a discount on your services or during those specific months, right? And start maybe a referral program that the people that are already on your list, for example, they're already engaged, they know who you are, what you do. Reach out to those real estate agents or other partnerships that you have to really promote your services during this time, because while it is slow, it doesn't mean the business isn't there. So just be consistent and stay consistent during this time of year as well. And even more about offering promotions, you can also, give tips on during this time about, maybe home improvement things or other specialties towards your specific business and the services that you offer.
Yeah, and I'll just add, my husband and I actually own a garage door business, and November and December, it generally tends to be a slower time for us as well. So really think about those things that you can do to build relationships and get out there in front of people. It may not be so much about a promotion to get people to buy for the holidays, unless, someone wants to buy their spouse a home inspection for maybe a brand new house. Maybe you could go about it that way. But really think about sharing things like valuable content, the importance of home inspections, maybe some home improvement ideas or home decorating ideas, decorating your house for the holidays, or maybe even just send and post a simple happy holidays message. You really can't go wrong there. All right, so this next one comes from Edie. So they want to know the best techniques for reaching my prospective customer. Rachel, I'll start with you.
Sure. I think one thing I would say is the best thing to do is think of your ideal customer. Like, what do they like? What are their problems? What are the challenges that they face? And how can your products or services solve that need that they have? And then I think that's really how you start in making sure that you write those things down. And then you go where you're going to find those people. You know your customer better than anybody else. So whether you're going to find them, on a specific social channel, which Patrick could probably speak to more, go where they are and really start to think about how the content that you're putting out, how you talk about your products and services is in that same type of language. It's going to speak directly to that ideal customer that you have.
Totally agree. And I like to think about how, you know, you have to think about how people consume media and where they are spending their time, where you can be discovered, especially things like email and social are kind of like a more of a Venn diagram in terms of the people you're going to find. There's a big overlap in the middle for sure, but some people might just really prefer email in terms of the way they want to be communicated to. Some people might really prefer social, might prefer seeing a billboard, right? Like there's a whole number of things. So understanding your customer really before you do anything as a business owner around marketing is a key first step.
And I would just add, you know, they're not all going to be in the same channel. They're not all going to be using email in the way that you would want them to, or social media. So I would just say make sure you're using a variety of channels. It's something we teach all of the time in our webinars and through any content here at Constant Contact. So important not to just think that social media is better than email. They really all should be working together for you. All right. So Christine asks or wants to know about building a holiday campaign. Patrick, do you have anything you want to add to this one?
Sure. So, you know, as I said, over communication at the time of year is really key. There's a lot of noise out there. You're not the only one sending out a holiday campaign too. So you have to keep in mind that inboxes are fuller than ever, social feeds are fuller than ever. So I'd start by thinking a lot about your message, right? What is it that's going to resonate in an Instagram feed or in an inbox from a subject line perspective? That's going to get somebody to just open you, because that's step one. Is you know, engage them in the right way. And part of that, one thing with holidays is we say the word holidays, right? Because there are multiple holidays. There's Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving. And can we ever talk about Canada Day if you go back a few more months or whatever it might be? But you know, segmentation is important. You don't want to necessarily always blast out one message that's Merry Christmas or one message that's even Happy Holidays, because while that last one will resonate with everybody, you would get more activity if you knew that somebody celebrated, you know, Kwanzaa or Hanukkah, to say Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. So segmentation and understanding your customer go a long way right now.
Awesome. Rachel, what about you?
I agree with everything Patrick said. I think having or taking some action, especially at this time of year, is the most important thing. So, you know, if we were talking a couple of months back, I would say, you know what, have a plan in place. Like, think about what are those goals that you want to achieve. Now that we're in December, it's not that you can't still have those small achievable goals. So what is it that you're looking to achieve in this next few weeks while we still have a little bit of time left, right, before those bigger holidays come? And then start making a plan for how you can do that and where you're going to do that, right? Keep it simple. I think we've said that a few times now. When I'm looking for something online, I want to get straight to it. I don't need to, if you're sending me an email, I want to see where that call to action is. I want that thing. I want to know how I can get it. So if you keep it simple and you actually just take the action to be in those multiple channels where your customers are, then you're going to have more success. And then take that planning in mind. I know we don't want to think about next year yet, but do that for next year. Have a plan in place so that when you come to this time of year, you're ready for it and you know what you're trying to achieve and you can start even earlier.
Awesome. Patrick, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think all in all, there's a really good point there. I think maybe some of you saw me like a little shudder, Rachel, when you said it's December, because I kind of forgot, but also at the same time, like, we are in a position where we're talking about holiday marketing, and maybe we should have been talking about this back in October, been thinking about it back in October to be really successful. But just because we aren't talking about it in October doesn't mean you can't be successful. So for those of you who might be hearing some of these things and saying, that's too late. It's too late for me to be successful here. Like, don't take that away either from what we're saying. It's never too late. There's always an opportunity. It just might be a different opportunity or a changed opportunity.
So what I'd want to add to that kind of builds on this next question from Valerie, which is how to stir interest. And really, I think this time of year is thinking about, again, your audience, like Patrick and Rachel have already said, but what are the things that they're really going to value right now? What are the things that they're trying to do? They are trying to find those last minute gifts and, have a happy holiday season. So maybe, having a holiday party, maybe there's a guide that you can share with them. Maybe you can provide them a gift guide at your store to help them find the right gift, or just show how different items, maybe if you're a clothing boutique, how things compare really well together. And then someone could just come in and buy that outfit for the right size for whoever they're buying for. Maybe it's bundling a few items together to make those items in your store feel really special too. Rachel, what else do you have to add how to stir interest?
I think it's really honing in on what makes your business unique, or even you as an individual, as a business owner, unique. It could just be bringing in something special. And I actually, last year, which was a really tough year for all of us, I think some really unique things came out of that year. Like businesses were opening up for like special shopping sessions. You could, go and reserve like a half an hour in a store. And like, just think, we would never, I mean, at least I'd never heard of that before COVID. And so I think there's a real opportunity to kind of take what you do and think about unique ways to deliver that. Maybe it's like a signature holiday cocktail hour or something that you're going to have in your gallery or something, or an event that you just host just for the holidays. And it's really, less about, promoting your services or products, but really about it's an awareness play, right? Like making people aware that you exist, that you're there, that you're a person, that you have personality, and it's going to draw people in. People like to go to events, especially after, the last 18 months. I think people are starting to get ready to do certain things. And so I think a holiday giveaway is a great way to kind of bring people in, or with an event, and do something unique that you wouldn't normally have thought of.
Awesome. Patrick, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
I really like the idea though of community and events and thinking about almost the FOMO mindset, right? We've missed out a lot over these last 18 months. And so I think some of us, especially if you look at the social channel, you're scrolling through your feed and you're seeing these delicious meals and you're seeing people gathering again and you're seeing products that you really want to buy. So when you craft messages and craft content around your marketing, how can you design it in such a way that whether or not someone can come or can purchase or, can even buy in that moment, right? You can't click on an Instagram post and get to your website. Getting them in the mindset to purchase from you either now or in the hopefully very near future.
Yeah, it's not just about that one ad, but often it takes about 7 touches for someone to be able to take action. It's all kind of about that awareness play, what you offer. So
yeah, I would say that's on like the good side too, right? If you're a services business or doing B2B or house cleaning or something like that, the number we started to hear is as high as 13 or 20 touches to get somebody to do something that maybe costs a little bit more money or has a little bit more level of investment. So make sure you're not just I hear a lot. I think Rachel, you probably hear this too. When we talk to customers, we often hear people say like, I don't want to email them because I don't want to bother them. Like, well, they signed up for your email list because they want to hear from you. They're following you on Instagram because they want to hear from you. Like, don't go overboard. Don't send them 3 emails a day and put out 15 Instagram posts a day, but like find a balance that isn't once a month.
And just to add to that, Patrick, I just from a personal experience, like the value that content brings to your business is huge. So I actually receive an email every day from a particular, it's called, they're these one thing, it's a marriage email, right? Like one thing you can do every day to improve your marriage. Like, and it gives you it's a very short little snippet, but there's something I get out of it. And they're a nonprofit and I definitely donate and I purchase their resources because I value what they're bringing to me. And so I think, to your point, Patrick, don't worry about bothering people. If you're giving them that valuable information, and whether it's content or services or your products, they're not going to mind.
It's all about building trust, showing your expertise, because especially the housekeeper instance, if you're sharing really good content about how you're able to keep a house clean over the holidays with 15 people coming over or whatever the case may be, I'm going to start to trust you a little bit more. And that means I'm kind of building that relationship with you on the way, whether it's via email or via social media as well. So Sarah asks, how do I convert lookers into sales? Patrick, I'll start with you.
I think it gets to a little bit what you were saying right there. A looker is great, right? Not always in that single moment when somebody's looking, at a piece of content they see or seeing you for the first time, are they ready to purchase? So, anything you can do to follow up on that is really key. If we're talking very tactically, if you can get somebody to visit your site for the first time, then you can, retarget them with more advanced messages down the road. So, you don't think that your one shot in front of somebody is that single shot. There are more shots available, but you have to be prepared to take them.
And I'll just add, think back to what's most important to your audience, or even those specific segments or groups of your audience at this time of year, because that allows you to take and craft the right message for each group so that, you provide that value specific to that group. And then when you send that promotional email, that just means they're more likely to actually take action. Now, in a lot of instances, things like free shipping or just making something super easy or super special in the experience can help turn those lookers into actual sales for your business. So Debbie asks, this is the first holiday I have a paid product to offer. Is there anything else I can do other than email and a Facebook post? Patrick, I'll start with you.
Beyond posting, you want to think about advertising for sure as well. If you've never done Facebook or social advertising, it has to be part of your mix when you think about social media in general. Organic posting, as we would call it, is a great way to get going. It's a great way to get your business out there, and it's obviously inexpensive. It's free. It's just your time to get it done. But advertising can take that to the next level, right? Especially if you're going to invest time to make really great content, you should be finding ways to get that content to more people, like the people who have opted in to follow you. So you can get started with Facebook advertising for as little as $5 a day. So we're not talking that you have to be thinking about tens of thousands of dollars to compete on these types of channels. And I would recommend starting to get active on advertising almost day one.
And I would add to that, if you're not already selling online, I would definitely make sure you take that step, even if it's just one product you take, and make sure that people can purchase it online. It just makes it so easy for your customers. So we have what's called a shoppable landing page in Constant Contact, which could be a good option for you. You can create it. You could feature that one product or feature a few of your products that are really great for the holidays or make great gifts. And then the great thing is that you can publish it and then take that link, share it in a Facebook post, or you could even potentially link to it in a social media ad like Patrick was talking about. Lots of things that you can do, again, combining all these different channels together. So this next question comes from Roman. How do you market your real estate company during the holiday season? Rachel, I'll start with you because I think you've actually shared some information from a real estate agent you work with in the past.
Yeah, I think this is a great time to, I think like we've mentioned a few times already, and I think hopefully it's hitting home, is building relationships, right? And I might not be ready to purchase a home now, or maybe I just purchased a home and I worked with you, or I know somebody that's worked with you and somehow I ended up on your list. I think the important thing is to share or promote valuable content, and through all your channels, not just email, but social, putting a blog on your website. And that's really going to help you stand out to other agents, because we know this is a very concentrated market for real estate. And so being able to really share your expertise and what you know is huge. Some examples could be, strategies for winterizing your home before traveling for the holidays, right? It's specific to the time you're in. And it's just a great way to stay top of mind for those folks. Maybe another one would be a recap of the past year's trends, maybe a preview of what's going to be coming for the next year, because again, I might be looking now and I know the market's really crazy in terms of, purchasing a home right now. So maybe I'm going to wait a few months. So you don't want to get forgotten in the shuffle and just think, oh, it's not a good time of year to buy a home in this area. So I'm just going to wait to connect with those folks until it starts to pick up again, because that's when you're going to get left in the dust and somebody else is going to scoop up that sale, that connection. So start with that content and just stay top of mind throughout this year.
It's funny you said scoop up, because like one of the things you've said a lot is people definitely are not in the mindset to buy a house right now, right? But they're in the mindset to buy a house next year. They probably already know they're going to be in the market next year. So that consumer who's going to be your client in the spring is ready to be reached and engaged with, and for them to even give you their information and say, I'm going to raise my hand in the spring and I want to talk to you. So if you weren't talking to them now, some other real estate agent is out there going to scoop them up. And so why I said scoop is funny is I think this is true of other industries, like ice cream on, you know, if you're selling ice cream in a resort and vacation area that during the summer, how many of us are longing for summer in the middle of winter, right? And so we're often in that mindset. So if you hit me with an email saying like, we're only 184 days from opening day from my ice cream shop, like I am going to be ready to go on day 183 to be there the next day. So, you know, think about that even though someone can't buy your product or is unlikely to buy right now, it's about setting them up for the purchase when they're ready.
Definitely. And I think there's some other fun things that you can do. I've seen like home decorating contests for the holidays. You could even host a holiday donation drive. Maybe you're sharing your brochures and flyers so people who come to donate get to learn more about you and your services. Maybe you're just out there adding some festive lights to your listed homes and of course your signs out front. And of course, you could create a campaign with a percentage of your commission going to charity, because, you know, the end of the year is here and we all love to make sure, you know, what we're doing is actually going to good use and to a charity. So I love that whole idea of really partnering with a nonprofit organization like that as well. So Ernest asks, how early should we wish someone happy 2022? It's hard to believe how to figure out how to say that. It's almost here. Rachel, I'll start with you.
You know, I'd include it in the messages you already have planned to send the beginning of the year. I mean, this is back to the planning, right? It's, you know, this is coming. The new year is happening, whether you want it to or not. So plan for what you're going to do, right? I mean, if you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, if you have an email list, hopefully you already have those things planned out. And so send it with the first messages of the year on the 1st. I think it's fine. I mean, I think if you're worried about getting lost and wanting to wait till like the 2nd or the 3rd, I think is that Monday, I think that's fine too. I think people are okay with hearing that and they expect it, right? It's almost like if you don't do it, they're like, oh, why didn't these guys, you know, say Happy New Year? It's the new year, you know, it's a time for celebration. So include it again as part of your email or post, and you can partner it with other messages you already had planned. You don't have to send a specific just focused on Happy New Year, but yeah, do it right away in the year and kick the year off in a positive note.
And maybe just pair that with like a, you know, how to start the year off right. You know, if you're a B2B business and you're offering marketing services, like talk about planning some marketing, or, you know, 5 steps to planning your marketing for the year. Patrick, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I would. So as somebody who has constantly said I'm planning for next year, which is 2020, because my mind is broken over these last 18 months, you know, the more you can tell me it's 2022 in the first few weeks, the better. So yeah, I agree that there's really not too late. There can be maybe too early, right? Like last year, people wanted you to say Happy 2021 in like October, given how the year was going. But this year, I think if you're, you know, before Christmas, that's probably a little bit too early. I'd also say, you know, just practically, a lot of businesses who use social tools to schedule posts out are like, I'm going to have my Instagram post that says Happy New Year hit at 12:01 Eastern time on, or, you know, in my time zone. And yeah, everybody else is doing that too. So, you know, that floods into these social media algorithm feeds and like you get lost and nobody actually sees that post. So maybe if you did it at 10 o'clock the next day, or, you know, for you know, noon on the first Monday, you actually might have a better chance of being seen.
That's a really good point, thinking about what other people are or other businesses are doing as well. So John wants to know what are the best ways to kick off holiday selling online? So I'll just start this one off. You know, I would say definitely come up with something enticing. I've already mentioned maybe thinking of a special holiday bundle, or depending on your business, if it's B2B or something like that, do you have a special you can offer on a consultation or something like that? Something that could be available for a short period of time. Take that, create a simple message, again, simplicity, and promote it everywhere. Email, social media, make sure you're updating your website with it so that anyone who finds it, no matter what the channel, can take advantage of your offer. Rachel, what about you?
I think I agree with all of that. You want to ensure that the messaging is consistent across all your channels as well. And not saying you want it to be the exact same language, because I think we all know that what you would write in an email isn't what you would put on Twitter. Patrick being the social guru here today, I think he can speak more to that. But I will say that, you know, if you're offering, and this could work if you're offering like a special discount or something for your email subscribers versus like if you post it on social, that could also be a driver, right? To get people to sign up for your email list is, you know, hey, join our list and we'll give you a special discount for the holiday season. So something like that could be kind of interesting too.
Awesome. Let's move on to the next one. This one comes from Belinda, but how can you use Constant Contact for year-end donations? So Constant Contact, as you've probably heard Patrick, Rachel, and I talk about, you know, we have various marketing tools. We've got email, and in there, you can simply go in and add a donation block. You can use social media. We've got our social media tool that allows you to post out to Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn all at the same time. And going back to what Rachel just said is don't post the exact same message on every single channel. You want to customize it a little bit, so if someone's on multiple channels, plus you've got to expect that those channels actually have different personalities in and of themselves, and people on those channels expect different things. Like Instagram is all about visuals and videos, and you know, you can use hashtags and things like that. We've also got Facebook and Instagram ads, which you can actually take and, you know, drive to a donation page and maybe tell a story about someone you're helping this year, and really draw them in with that ad, and link to a page where they can go in and donate directly. Patrick, I feel like maybe you've got something you might want to add to that.
Yeah, I think you've hit on a great use case for the tools to allow you to do the processes, but absolutely consider, you know, social as a place where you can be doing fundraising. I think a lot of people think like I can use email and I can use my website and people are going to come and they're going to find me and they're going to donate, and that might be where they need to take the actual action. Sometimes they miss out on that beautiful storytelling that does exist within social media, right? Almost every nonprofit, it's hard for me to think of one that wouldn't have these great rich stories to tell, right? You need to raise funds because you have a cause you really believe in, and there's people who you are really helping. And so make sure you're utilizing each of those platforms in the best way possible. And I will say too, that, and this is more broadly applicable, what you said about thinking about the audiences of the different channels is really, 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 really important. Again, going back to that Venn diagram of like just email and social, how it isn't a concentric circle. That's even true of Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook and Instagram. So you got like 4, and there's maybe some very small overlap between the 4, but the user on Twitter is very different than the user on LinkedIn, is very different than the user on Instagram. So don't just, you know, make sure you're speaking differently to them, but also consider that it's not the same person in a different mindset.
Awesome, yeah. And it can be the same theme too, but just make sure you're customizing it to those different audiences. So let's move on to this question from Elard. I think that's how to say your name. I hope I said it correctly. But what kind of data should I be collecting and modeling to better understand my audiences? I'll start us off, but I think some of the most important ones are your email data. You know, your clicks, because when someone clicks on a link in your email, that's telling you they're interested in a product or a topic that's in your email. Think about the traffic to your website and which pages they're going to. But also I think, you know, ads are going to play a role in this too. You know, you've got some impressions and clicks from those ads. Patrick, do you want to maybe elaborate on that part?
Yeah, so all the data that you can get that is about somebody taking an action on your content, whether it be social or whether it be email, is going to help inform you, right? What is the content that's resonating with an audience, or what is the content that isn't resonating, or what content should I do more of or less of or push up in a communications? I mean, additionally, I'd also say, you know, let's not forget the basics too of like what information are you asking when somebody signs up for your email list or fills out a lead form for you. First name, last name, email is like, you know, barrier to entry, but if you can get birthday, and if you can get products they're interested in, if you can get, you know, all those other pieces of data, you'll be able to segment your messages in really interesting ways. What I'd say is there's a real balance, right? Like if you ask for too much information without giving something back to the user, they're just not going to fill out your form. They're not going to give you that the basic information you need. So make sure, you know, if you say, I want to know your birthday, it's because I want to send you that special birthday email discount or whatever it's going to be, and that you're providing value for the information they want to give you.
One thing I'd add,
you?
yes. One thing I wanted to add to that, especially if you are somebody that's just getting started, maybe you're trying to grow your list, or you're just trying to kind of grow your customer base in general, and you don't really have a lot of data to go on already, I think a great way to gather data is sending a survey, right? Sending a poll. And just remember with that, again, like to Patrick's point, don't put too much information in there, and you really want to think strategically about how you're going to use that data, right? So if you're going to be asking them, for example, about like specific products, or if they want to, you know, receive information on a specific product or service you offer, how are you going to follow up on that? Because don't just ask it and let it sit there and you don't do anything with it, because that's not going to build trust with prospects or customers. So I think events is another great way. You know, if you host events, whether they're online or in person, there's a lot of data that you can get from that. And you can follow up with people after the event. There's, you know, who attended the event, but who didn't attend, right? I think there's a lot of data you can gather from those as well. So
yeah, I would add on to that, like we've always said data is gold, but as we go forward, it is more and more valuable to every type of business. We're entering, for those who might be on this call who are very sophisticated marketers, and maybe those who are not as sophisticated marketers, we're entering a world where, you know, platforms like Facebook and Twitter and social platforms and Google, you know, we tapped into their data to reach our audiences or to segment our messages, you know, in a better way. We're going to lose access to that over the next couple of years as changes to privacy law and other things, you know, come into play. So you need to start thinking right now about how you own your data. So, you know, in technical terms being first party data. You got the data from your users, they gave it to you willingly, and you're holding on to it. That's where you have to be focusing your marketing efforts over the next 18 months versus relying on, you know, what we call third party data.
And I just want to go back to this point, you know, especially like clicks and all these other pieces of data you could collect on a sign up form. Make sure you're using that to segment your list, because especially when it comes to email marketing, you're going to get better results when you're sending relevant messages, relevant products, relevant information that's helpful to them. That's the best way you're going to actually get them to take action in the future, and even build a long-term relationship with them that keeps them coming back time and time again with you. So let's go ahead and move on to some questions in email marketing specifically. Now, Cynthia, and I know a few other people have asked this, but how do you get more people to open your emails? This goes back to what I just said. Segment and make sure you're sending targeted, relevant messages. Customize those messages to each of your different groups of people. And I could talk about this for all day, but Rachel, I'll move on to you and let you talk about some other things.
yeah, I think another really huge part of getting people to actually open your email is, what is your subject line, right? Is it enticing them to open? Does it actually give you a glimpse of what they're going to be reading about in the content? And there's a lot of things you can do to kind of test out subject lines. I know this can be like a really hard part of creating an email for some folks, is figuring out how to you know, write a good subject line and what's going to be something that catches their attention. And so do some A/B testing with your subject lines and see which one performs better. And then, you know, continue to kind of do those things that you notice work. So testing is going to be part of that. And not just testing with subject lines, but you can test with your content too. Maybe you have, you know, a particular topic that's resonating better with your audience. And so, yeah, I think I'm a huge component for testing, and test. and I will say with that, test one thing at a time, so you know what is driving. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to understand the outcome. Yeah, no, it was, so the thing that I would add on to is, I've heard this a lot from our customers, is like, they understand we have segmentation tools and automation tools and A/B testing tools, but they're scared of them because they like having complete control over what the message is going to look like in the inbox. Like they get a little worried, like if I put first name here, will it really show their first name when it hits the inbox? And it's an understandable fear. But number one, we're here to help you. We have tons of content and even people who will help you walk through the process. You can test it out. You can make sure it's working the way you want it to. But don't be fearful, because it's actually holding you back. When you go to do that broader email and you're like, it didn't get the opens I wanted, it didn't get the clicks I wanted, it's because nobody who got it was like, this is for me. So take advantage of those tools. And I would say, if anybody here, if I give anybody here a resolution for 2022, it's face your marketing fears.
I love it.
You might be muted.
I don't hear you, Steph.
Yeah. Up on this and so many other topics, segmentation, improving your open rates and things like that. We've got a whole series of webinars from the link that I just put in the chat window. For instance, there is a webinar out there called Quick Simple Tips to Improve Your Email Marketing Results. Plus there's one on segmentation and so much more. So be sure to check those out, because those will help you step by step on how to conquer those marketing fears and do them in constant contact. All right, so Kathy asks, what's the best motivator to get people to take action as a result of an email sent? So I think I've mentioned a few of these, but things that are making it ease and convenience. What are some quick things they can do to get those gifts for people? Free shipping is a big enticer for people. Guaranteed delivery. So this one is tricky right now because what are we, 2-3 weeks away from Christmas? So, let people know what is that cutoff date for guaranteed delivery. Or, maybe if you're just someone who you're not able to fulfill an offer, by getting it shipped at a certain date and guaranteeing that delivery, maybe you want to focus on people who are a little bit more local to your area so that you can, in fact, guarantee some delivery. You could also do some other things like make it special with offering some free gift wrapping or things along those lines as well.
And just a really quick addition onto that about the guaranteed delivery thing. And I think Patrick mentioned it earlier about being transparent about if you order by this time, we can do it. Of course, you can't control FedEx and, UPS and all these things, but what you can control is being transparent with your customers. And there may be some folks that just want to order it and they're okay with getting it a couple of days late. I know, we do a few different Christmases with both sides of the family. So I would be fine with getting a Christmas present a couple of days after, because we do that. We celebrate after as well. So I think transparency is key in terms of the whole delivery. Setting proper expectations is really what it comes down to.
Great point. So I want to move on and address this question that lots of people have, not just in this webinar, but every single webinar, it seems like. So is there any day of the week that is better to send messages during the holidays? So I would probably, avoid sending on the specific holidays themselves, especially the big religious ones like Christmas, Hanukkah, and things like that. Those tend to be when people are really gathering with family. Definitely, I would probably stay away from anything promotional. If you do send something on those days, make sure it's just that happy holidays, really feel good type of message. But again, there's no black or white answer, but consider first and foremost who your audience is. If you've got business professionals, they're probably going to be taking some time off, maybe a week off over the next couple of weeks. But in general, I've also seen some data that maybe midweeks in the mornings are a good time. So what I really want to suggest you do is maybe try that out first, but then look at your data and things like that that are happening with your sales, with your clicks in your emails, because you might want to adjust that as time goes on, or even if you plan to send more emails over the holiday season.
And Stephanie, I was just, go ahead, Patrick.
I was like, we got a lot of thoughts on this one. So yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly that let the data guide you, right? Use a little bit of your gut instinct to say, like, these are when I would open them if I was somebody doing this, but then follow the data and then look for other best practices as well. It's interesting what you said about religious holidays, very true, right? Like in the middle of Hanukkah just passed, or if we think about Christmas, people are really focused on their family. But there's data to support that, like for Thanksgiving, the concept would be you're really focused on your family, but the data seems to support that you're trying to get away from your family and you're on your phone all day long on Thanksgiving.
So,
So there's actually like a lot of people who are engaging and not a lot of marketers who have messaged on that day. Similarly, we're starting to see some data to say, Black Friday and Cyber Monday have shifted forever. And the thought process there is that with more and more people who are just now working remote in perpetuity, there's less need to like escape your job for a few hours and online shop in the middle of the day on a Tuesday. So not that if my boss is listening to this, like I did not do that. I just want you to know that. But nothing is ever set in stone is what I want to say in all of that. Like, don't go into next holiday season immediately assuming it's going to be like the holiday season we had this year. You're going to have to renew your knowledge just a little bit as we go forward.
And
Awesome.
I was just going to say this is related to, I think, a topic that came up earlier about like how many emails is too many or what's ideal. I think that question comes up no matter what time of year it is. But I think this
Yes.
time of year, and I think Patrick, it was you that said it, it's okay to email more often, like especially if you're promoting a sale that's going to end on a specific date. I think sending it a few times a week is okay during this time, and ultimately know your audience. But this time of year, I think people are expecting that they're going to get more emails of just what's happening, just tis the season, if you will.
Yeah, and I'd add to that like you do have to hit them more. Not just because you want them to see all of your messages. You have to have the assumption they're going to miss some of them, given the increase in volume and given the increase in like mind share. Like I think about this week for me, and I'm like, I haven't like had a minute to look at my inbox, my personal inbox this week. But then come on Saturday, I'm going to fire through a bunch of them. But I'm really only going to look at the last 200. That seems like a lot even, but 200. I might miss the other 500 that came in behind that just because. They got there too early.
Awesome. Yeah. On that how many emails thing, usually a general rule of thumb that we talk about all the time, when you have a time sensitive offer or maybe an event you're trying to get people to register for, think about it in a series of 3 emails. Email 1 announces what your offer or your event is going to be. Then you send a reminder email, and then right before that offer expires, send a last chance reminder email. And it's not just email that can apply to, that can also apply to your social media posts as well. As a parent who often is thinking about something and my child tells me he needs a snack or something, I might be reading that email and I want to take advantage of it, but then I'm busy taking care of my family, and that email coming in later reminds me, oh yeah, I did want to take advantage of that offer.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about this question from Michelle. She wants to know advice for creating newsletters. So I'll start out here, but when I hear the term newsletter, I think about it as multi-article emails. So really not just about the holidays, but really I want to suggest that you make these feel personal. Sometimes I see companies or nonprofits even just go in and put their 3 articles in. Always do a personal introduction that makes it really friendly and just gives that personal connection as to why you're sending that email, what's the theme of that email, and what you're trying to do at your organization. I think that's something that really helps. Also, think about really limiting your email, your newsletter email to just 3 topics at once. Because if you're trying to do too many things in an email, people are eventually going to stop reading. And if you really want them to take an action like purchase or make a donation, they're less likely to do that. When I was on the support team here at Constant Contact many years ago, I once received or was looking at a customer's email who, if I would have printed it out, it would have been 16 pages long. I can almost guarantee you no one is going to be reading that long of an email. They might just read the first couple of lines or just kind of skim through the headlines.
And I think if you have that much information to share that's valuable, break it up into multiple emails. And that's when it's okay to send a little bit more often because you've got something to say, right? It's not just fluff content, right? If you're providing a story or you're giving engaging content that's useful and somebody's going to find valuable, then just break it up into multiple emails rather than trying to fit and stuff everything into one email isn't going to work.
And for those promotion, oh, sorry.
I was just saying, I couldn't agree more. And I just like, I can't tell if our customers get really excited or get really nervous when they find out that an employee is on their email list, because like I had this happen with my child's daycare the other day where I emailed them to be like, your email could use some love. I just wanted to let you know I love it, but it could do better. And then like 2 weeks later, I got an email back from them that was like, more of the parents opened it. Thank you. And I was like, hey, I'm excited, but sorry.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was just going to add on to that. When you're talking about your promotional emails, really the best way to get someone to click and take action, purchase, donate, or even just simply continue reading your emails or go to your blog on your website is to keep it simple. Really, all you need is a picture, a paragraph with a short headline in there, and then your call to action. Your call to action button in your email should link directly to the page where you want them to go. Don't take them to your homepage if you're featuring a product in there. Drive them to the exact page where they can see more about that product and actually click that button to add it to their cart. All right, so let's move on to some questions more specifically on social media. So Patrick, this is where you're really going to shine, but Deborah asks, how do you use social media more effectively so that the ads are noticed?
It's a really great question, and one that's getting more and more challenging. So we didn't give a total background on it, but I'm actually one of the people who makes the social media ads that Constant Contact uses to acquire our own customers. And so if you've seen an ad from Constant Contact, I've been a little bit behind the scenes on that. And it is something you have to be, you have to keep educating yourself on, right? What is it that, how are people experiencing your ad, and in what ways, and what works, and it changes a lot, right? Over the last 2 years, especially when we were all at home in the beginning of COVID, video was huge. Like video ads were absolutely doing so much better than image ads or any other type of advertising, because people had more time to consume the ad. They were more interested in them. There was more inventory actually, because some advertisers had to stop advertising during that time. Now flash forward to where we are today. A lot of those advertisers are back. There's a lot of ads in the newsfeed. You're probably seeing more and more yourself. Now you have to ask yourself, if there's 10 ads and someone scrolling for 2 minutes on Instagram, what's going to make that thumb stop is the way that we think about it. And usually that's colors or bold words or something that is eye-grabbing. There's a term called banner blindness for like what's called display banner media. So if you go to a website, you see all those long, tall ads. We call banner blindness because a lot of people don't realize they even saw those ads, and that's kind of leaking into social media more and more. So I always say when you're building a social media ad, start with your creative and your messaging first. You'll get to your targeting and you'll get to how much to spend and who to hit and all those things, but spend a good amount of time on getting the creative right.
So important. And Patrick, it was like 2 or 3 months ago that you and I and another coworker of ours actually sat down and talked about social media ads and talked about how to create a Facebook ad for beginners. So Dave or someone in the background, I'm not sure if you'd be able to find that, but maybe you can share that with the audience in there as well. So Deborah has a follow-up question to that as to how to follow up with leads from those ads.
Well, if you're using lead ads, which is a specific type of Facebook ad, that is very effective. It's effective because it's a form that exists on Facebook. So you think about our landing page experiences or other forms you've had on your website. That all happens now in Facebook. Also, Facebook has all your data or a lot of your data. So when a user gets that ad, their name, their email address, their company, that's all filled out. They just hit submit, and boom, it's into your system. If you're using Constant Contact, hopefully you're connecting those two things because they do connect. So you should be hitting them with an email very quickly. You've just gotten all this great information. Maybe you've given them an offer. You want to make sure that that email coming off of that lead is happening, near instantaneously or within, 30 minutes or an hour at most.
And you've within Constant Contact, we talk about all the time, use the welcome email, make sure you're setting that up. If you want to entice people to sign up to your mailing list with a lead ad or even just a plain old landing page, use something of value that's going to entice them. A lot of times it's going to be a coupon or some sort of offer. It could be that they're just looking for valuable exclusive content, or they simply want to support your business or organization. So make sure that in your welcome email that you're fulfilling on any offer there. You're kind of giving them the intro to your business, giving them that coupon code or whatever it is. And then you could use an additional few emails in a series to really let them get to know your business. Maybe ask them to start following you on social media, or let them know all the different ways that they can start connecting with your business.
Yeah, that connection piece is vital. For anybody who's been on a webinar with me in the last 2 years, I'm sorry, this is the third time you've heard it, but you are renting real estate on social media when you buy ads. You should be, buying that audience. And so if you use lead ads, someone gives you their email address, you can now talk to that person over and over and over again with Constant Contact or your email marketing, and you don't have to pay for it every single time. If you want to reach that same person on just Facebook ads, you have to pay every single time, and you wouldn't even know if you got in front of them every single time. So own your audience, don't rent it. That's my big push for the social email connection.
Great point there. So let's talk a little bit more about organically, because Danielle asks how to increase engagement on social media, and I'm pretty sure there's lots of different things you can do.
Yeah, there is a ton. A trend that I've seen, and I think this goes back to some of the other things we've said, particularly for brick and mortar businesses, nonprofit, is leaning into the sense of community. So I imagine that everybody who's listening here or has some community. It might be physical, it might be digital, but let's use physical for example here, right? If you're on Main Street with a couple other businesses, or you're in your town with a couple other businesses or like-minded industries, talk to each other, use each other's followers, make sure you're all making that same connection. I find that if I look at people I follow on Instagram, they fall into buckets, because if I have one business, so I spend a lot of time, I'm based out of Boston, I spend a lot of time up in New Hampshire around the North Conway area. That community is very good at helping each other out. So I follow one business, and then all of a sudden they reference two other businesses, and a new business just started, Acai Bowl business. Anybody in the area, you should go check out Freshies Acai Bowls. And it's like a snowball effect for me in terms of getting to a broad sense of very similar type of businesses that I'd want to go check out. So make sure you're not on an island in your marketing efforts, and that you're working together with your community, physically or digitally, to help each other grow.
Awesome. So Samina asks, how much do you plan on posting between Christmas and New Year's, and what type of content?
There's a couple times that it's come up where I should say, like, there's no golden bullet answer to some of these things, like the day of the week question. Like, even if I could tell you that the #1 open time is 11:04 p.m. Eastern, like, I wouldn't expect everybody to crowd in, and that wouldn't also be, and everybody did, then it become the worst time. But also different industries could be different times. So it's hard to get this very broad answer for those type of things. That being said, that week is such a missed opportunity. And it's tough to say missed opportunity, because we're all a little tired. We could all use a little break. And so we're not missing an opportunity. We're just like, I just don't want to do it this week. But because fewer people are communicating with their audiences at that time, it turns out to be a time where people are using mobile phones and reading their email more often than they usually are. And so get in there and make sure you're messaging them. I would say, if I had to give you an answer, don't post any fewer than one time, but I wouldn't post more than once a day. But you should be absolutely somewhere in that spectrum if you can. And the beauty of it is, you don't have to do this live. There's tons of tools to help you schedule social media. There's one in Constant Contact. So if you're a customer, you already have one, it's free. Just go use it. And you can just schedule all those posts out, December 20th, and then kick back and relax and enjoy yourself, and the machine will do the work for you.
I loved your point about that missed opportunity there, because often people have this cash or these gift cards that they've received as their holiday gift. And, if you're out there and you're staying top of mind with them, such a big opportunity via social media, an ad, an email campaign. Just get in front of them. And also, sometimes they have the time off, so they might be more willing to read some of that more valuable informational content, or how to do XYZ with your product. So definitely,
honestly, the buying season starts on the 25th for folks who have themselves Christmas holiday. Like,
Say that.
yeah, you got this pocket of consumers out there, right,
Yep.
right, who are returning gifts they didn't like, who are buying gifts for the family they're going to visit over the following week, and they want to get the best deal after the day after Christmas. Like, make sure you're locked in and getting those folks too, because again, missed opportunity.
And there's some folks that actually wait specifically till after Christmas to go do their Christmas shopping because, yeah, they think they're going to get the best deals then. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
my kids are locked in. They're good to go. My wife, I'm like, we now have a tacit agreement that I'm like, we're buying after. We're good.
Lots of great points there. I want to go ahead and move on and see if we can address some of these questions. And there's tons more questions in the chat window. But Andrea asks, what are some of the bigger changes with email marketing laws, CAN-SPAM Act, and challenges that we are now facing as marketers and small businesses? I don't envision this as really anything being changed in the last couple of years, you know, really just making sure you're online, you're out there, and you're being present with your audience. You have a website, you're using social media, you're using email to really push the word out to people. And really nothing has changed. You want to make sure you don't ever buy a list. Please don't ever buy a list. It's not a good idea in any sense. And I see that question a lot, but it's so important. Because if you were to purchase an email list, it actually, you know, those people aren't even interested in you. They're more likely to mark your email as spam. And that actually hurts your sending reputation in the future and can cause you a lot of problems that I can assure you don't want to deal with. You're going to receive so much more value by taking the time to actually grow your email list. There are so many tools out there in Constant Contact, and that webinar schedule I shared out earlier actually has a Grow Your List webinar in there. We walk you through all those different tools and some best practices for growing your list, because you want to make sure you're growing your list using social media and putting it on your website, and there's so many different other things that you can do with it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would add on that, like, obviously it's a changing ecosystem, and we've gotten reprieve. So to the extent that question was asking about it, there's things like GDPR, which is in the European Union, and CCPA out of California, that are changing, you know, the way marketers market going forward. For right now, impacts are still minimal, but we're going to start to feel them a bit more. The impacts have often been on the data side. There's also a question out there about how did changes to Apple privacy rules with the rollout of iOS 15 affect things. And the reality is we lost a lot of data in like Facebook advertising, and we lost some data in email marketing. And that didn't make them less effective. It just made it harder to prove their effectiveness. So, you know, I would say, number one, don't jump to conclusions because the ecosystem is changing and data is changing as to how effective, you know, a certain tactic might be. But it is going to be a little bit of a cloudy world that we are all navigating together. Like, if you think anybody, if you're looking at that type of a question and saying to yourself, man, everybody else got the answers, I don't know what's going on. A lot of us don't have the answers either yet. So we're going to work through this together, and we're all impacted equally.
And to follow up on that iOS 15 and the impact to email marketers, you know, your open rate is definitely not reliable these days at all, especially if you know you have a large chunk of people who are using that Apple Mail. You know, clicks are, you know, somewhat effective in telling you the story or the results of your email. But really, we want to suggest that you always look beyond just those email marketing stats, because those are going to tell you a much deeper level of information. You know, your conversion rate, are people actually buying your product or your service?
Mhm.
Your email growth rate. I don't know, Patrick, is there anything else? Or Rachel, I feel like I'm drawing a blank on somewhere.
I'd say it's even starting to develop out replacements for those data mechanisms. So I've started to see a lot of people rolling out as part of a checkout flow, you know, how did you hear about us, right? And all of a sudden your data spikes up and it's like, well, I got your email, but then your open rate is lower than it's ever been. And you're like, oh, okay, good. They did read the email. I just didn't get the data that they actually opened it. So adding in something like that to get, again, first party qualitative data about what your marketing efforts are doing cross channel would be a really good idea.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Janet asks, regarding Instagram, how do you show ads to those who do not follow you? Patrick, I'm going to start with you because you're the guru.
Cool. Easy answer on this one. You just pay for it, which is beautiful. That's the beauty of Instagram advertising. So we've gotten this question a couple times in the past, and I want to start by saying like it's a very common one because I think people who have never done social advertising have this fear, again, back to the resolution we all have for 2022, this fear that it's really difficult or that it does a certain thing that you think it does. And the reality is when you do Instagram advertising, which you often are going to do through Facebook or through a tool like Constant Contact, which allows you to advertise on these channels, is that you have the breadth of that world available to you, right? You're not, Instagram or Facebook isn't saying like, oh, you have to pay us to reach the people who already follow you. You can actually say, I want to reach people who live in my town and who are this age and who buy these types of products. So that's why I say like absolutely get in on the ground floor early with advertising, especially about advertising dedicated to build awareness or to drive leads, because that's going to be how you manifest an audience that you can then use other channels to reach over and over again.
Awesome. So I want to, while we're on the topic of social media, I just see that Caroline posted, she says this was an interesting point about posting on the weekends. Do you think that applies to LinkedIn since that's more of a professional B2B platform?
They will tell you, and I talk to my friends at LinkedIn quite a bit, they will tell you that it does not apply. Now, I challenge them on that right now, right in this moment. And the reason being the Great Resignation. It's very clear we're in the midst of a massive sea change in terms of people leaving and changing their jobs. So I think my gut instinct and some birdies have told me is, usage of a platform like LinkedIn is way up, and it's way up, in ways and days and times that are different than they have been in the past. That being said, if you are a business that feels like LinkedIn is where your audience is at, your B2B, maybe software sales, maybe services, high, more expensive type of a product, the bread and butter is still pre-work and post-work at somebody's local time. So that's still where you want to, like if you ask LinkedIn, they'll tell you you should be posting up your piece of content at, like, we're in Eastern time zone, at like 8:30, right? Because someone finishes dinner and they get on LinkedIn. They're not on LinkedIn at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Great point. And I think a lot of people, because of the Great Resignation, are spending probably more time on that, especially if there's someone who's looking for a job or even looking to expand their skill set for that next job. Great. So I see that we are a little past the top of the hour. So I want to thank you all so much for attending our webinar today, all of your great questions. And Patrick and Rachel, thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your great expertise. I know we did not get to all of the questions today because the chat window was very, very busy. So over the next couple of business days, we are going to work to answer as many more of those questions as we can. In the follow-up email, there'll be a link to the page on the community. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through a video answering as many of these questions as possible, and we're going to post that link on that community. So be sure to check that out in the next couple business days. It's going to take us a little bit to get through all of these wonderful questions. When we do end the webinar today, I do want to ask that you take just a minute or two to complete a short survey. It's 2 simple questions. We'd really love to know what you thought about the webinar today. So be sure to share that with us. So again, thank you all so much for attending our webinar today and all those great questions. And I wish you lots of luck in the coming new year and the holiday season.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. Happy holidays.